Good morning, Lighthouse.
Good morning.
You guys stand with us. We're going to do that fast one y'all like so much today.
Get Adam up here and he can use my mic.
I will. Hit it, Mason. I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow, but I know where I've been. I've been with Jesus. I'm gonna stay with him until the end. I was a flesh-pleasing, pleasure-loving, double-minded, mouth burning, backbiting, spirit fighting, thought my life was really exciting, church skipping, self-seeking, lost and dying in my sin. Now I'm born again, saved from sin, trusting him until the end, hand raising Jesus, great spirit, going screaming him and crushing Satan, but just waiting, Jesus coming again. Okay, hang on a minute. Adam, I hear you can do this. Let's go. Come on, Adam. Hold on. Adam, come on. I hear you've got this. No, it's time. This is your debut. It is time. Oh, I know, but you've got it too. Let's go, Adam. Come on, Adam. Come on. We'll do it with you.
No, thank you.
We'll do it with you.
No,
Here we go.
thank you.
Hit
No.
it, Mason.
No, thank you.
I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow,
but I know where I've been.
I've been with Jesus. I'm going to stay with him until the end. I was a flesh-pleasing, pleasure-loving, double-minded, mouth-running, backbiting, spirit-fighting, thought my life was rose, I'm church-skipping, self-seeking, lost and dying in my sin. Now I'm born again, saved from sin, trusting him until the end, hand raising Jesus, praying, still with age, screaming, amen. Satan, much of when Jesus is coming again. Here we go. I don't know where I'm gonna be tomorrow, but I know where I've been. I've been with Jesus. I'm gonna stay with him until the end. I was a flesh-pleasing, pleasure-loving, double-minded, mouth-running, backbiting, spirit-fighting, thought my life was real, side church skipping, self-seeking, lost and dying in my sin. Now I'm born again, saved from sin, trusting him until the end, hand raising Jesus, praying, spirit filling, screaming, amen, precious Satan, much waiting, Jesus coming again. Good job, Adam.
Good morning, Lighthouse. Yeah, it is. If you were here earlier, there was a great sound check that went on here that was as good as the praise and worship music that we're going to do in a little while. It was good. When I was about half the age I am now, I was talking to a man who was, that was about 35. When I was about 35, I was talking to a man who is about the same age as I am now, which is 70. And he said to me, I don't sleep much anymore. I sleep 3 or 4 hours a night, and that's it. And I thought that was pretty rich because here I am. I fell asleep in a dentist chair. My normal weekend sleep time was 10 or 12 hours. And I was reminded of that conversation this morning when Christina said, "Are you ready for some coffee at 3:30? I had been up at midnight, by the way. It wasn't like I went to bed with dark. Good job, Adam. So I would like to read to you this morning from the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel. After Hannah had been mistakenly taken for a drunken woman praying for a son, and then a few years later, had a son and brought him into the temple to be dedicated and leave him to live with Eli. Her son was Samuel, by the way. Then Hannah prayed. This is chapter 2, verse 1. My heart rejoices in the Lord. The Lord has made me strong. Now I have an answer for my enemies. I rejoice because you rescued me. No one is holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God. Stop acting so proud and haughty. Don't speak with such arrogance, for the Lord is a God who knows what you have done. He will judge your actions. The bow of the mighty is now broken, and those who stumbled are now strong. Those who were well fed are now starving, and those who were starving are now full. The childless woman now has 7 children, and the woman with many children wastes away. The Lord gives both death and life. He brings some down to the grave, but raises others up. The Lord makes some poor and others rich. He brings some down and lifts others up. He lifts the poor from the dust and the needy from the garbage dump. He sets them among princes, placing them in seats of honor. For all the earth is the Lord's, and he has set the world in order. He will protect his faithful ones, but the wicked will disappear in darkness. No one will succeed by strength alone. Those who fight against the Lord will be shattered. He thunders against them from heaven. The Lord judges throughout the earth. He gives power to his king. He increases the strength of his anointed one. Our 10-minute talk this morning is from a lady who has done the 10-minute talk probably as many or more times than anyone else here. She told me this morning there just wasn't enough good things that I could say about her. But I will anyway. I love you, Betty Ann. And some of my fondest memories of you are about as an 18-year-old girl. Such a cute little thing. Oh, you know, you look at those Dillard girls, and that's kind of what Betty Ann looked like when I first met her. Well, there are those among us who remember before you were so old and holy. Come on down.
Aren't we glad to be at church on the first Sunday of the new year? Jeff remembers some of those memories too. Okay, I hope everybody's good. Yeah, that's good. I want to be sure everybody hears me. That's okay, honey. That's good. Thank you, Neil. Oops. Man, I don't want to touch it. I just leave it alone. Okay, this morning we're going to read some scripture, and I'm going to talk. Imagine that. And we're going to start out, well, we're going to talk about generosity. What a great subject to talk about the first Sunday of the year, being a generous person. And don't let everybody's mind run to money. There's more ways to be generous than with money in there. One of the main things I think of is our time. You know, be generous with your time. My mother used to say that she had lived long enough to see things come back around. So, Mother, Granny, I'm there, and I can see things come back around. And you know, it's so great when you have spent time with someone when they're young, and you don't even think about it, and then they say to you, boy, I love the time we did this, and the time. And you know, that was time I probably didn't have time for, you know? But you take that time and be generous with it. That's what I want to do. And you young people, be generous with your time with your children. Those dishes and all that stuff, I didn't know this when my children were little because I thought I did have such a strict way of doing things. I mean, I had to work and I had to do this and I had to do that for us to live. But, we need to spend more time. Be generous with your time. Be generous because it won't be long till they won't be there and it won't matter anymore. Anyway, I'm going to read to you a scripture that we all know, and come in this house, children. In Mark chapter 12. Now, let me tell you about this to begin with. Jesus is in the temple with his disciples, and this is right over another chapter is back previous to this. This is when he had turned the money tables over because it said that they were exchanging the coins, and what they were doing was the Roman money had more silver and gold in it. So the people that were coming in to give that didn't have Roman coins were exchanging it. They were telling them to exchange it where they could give more, okay? And anyway, they were in the temple, and this temple, let me just tell you about this temple. This temple is the temple that Herod is remodeling. He's redoing. He's remaking. It's a fine temple. It is 150 feet tall, and it is on about 36 or 7 acres. It's full of gold. Everything in it is immaculate and the best you can have. Before you get to the what we would call the sanctuary, they didn't call it a sanctuary, but before you get there, you go down this long hall, and it's really more than a hall, and this is where the collection plates are. And they had collection boxes, Douglas. Yes, collection boxes, but they were much different than ours. They were big boxes on the ground. There were 13 of them. And over these boxes, there was a trumpet-like copper, well, it looked copper. It may have not been copper, but it was a metal piece that the coins you went in, they were big at the top, but it siphoned smaller into the box. The purpose of that, guess what? Was to hear the coins when they fell down. That's true. So when you stepped up to the box, if you had a lot of coins, and I even read somewhere they called your name out. Now, I don't know if that's true. But you step up to the box in the temple with this big bag of coins, and they say, Betty Ann Dillard, 2,000 coins. And everybody goes, whoa, wow, look at her. That's sort of the way it was. So anyway, it was all about how much you gave and who you were. They were on a real status of who you were. Even the priesthood had become corrupt. Even the priesthood had been bought out by people that were not of the Levi dissension. So it's everything in this temple practically was corrupt. It wasn't what it was supposed to have been. Okay, now let's read. In Mark chapter 13, and we're going to read it over in Luke too. I like it the best. I'm going to start with 39. Beware of the temple's teachers of religion, for they love to wear the robes of the rich and the scholarly that to everyone bow to them as they walk through the markets. Now, they began with a Jewish tradition to wear a shawl, a prayer shawl. That was a Jewish tradition. And they had gotten away from that. Now they had long robes. And on the bottom of them, they had tassels. Some of them had bells. I want to be sure you hear me when I come in, Tina, where you can stand up and be respectful to me. So this is where they were, okay? And Jesus is saying, beware of these teachers of religion. They love to sit in the best seats in the synagogue and all the places of honor at the banquets, but they shamelessly cheat the widows out of their homes. And then to cover up the kind of men they really are, they pretend to be pious by praying long prayers in public. Because of this, their punishment will be great. So they were what we call hypocrites, right? Then he went over, now this is Jesus, he goes over to the collection box in the temple, and he sat down and he watched as the crowds dropped in their money. Some were very rich, put in large amounts. Then a poor widow came and dropped in 2 pennies. Now, it wasn't even as much as 2 pennies. Our Bible says 2 pennies, but it wasn't as much as 2 pennies. They called them mites back then. It wasn't even a penny, but we just say penny because that's the lowest form of money that we know of. Jesus called the disciples to him, and he remarked, "That poor widow has given more than all the rich men put together, for they gave a little of their extra fat." That's what my Bible says. While she gave up her last penny. Now let's look over here in Luke. Let's see if I think it's Luke 1. No, it's not. Where is it, children? 21. Thank you, dear. Yes, that's it. Thank you, honey. As he stood in the temple, he was watching the rich tossing their gifts into the collection box. Then a poor widow came by and dropped in 2 small copper coins. "Really," he remarked, "this poor widow has given more than all the rest of them combined, for they have given a little of what they didn't need. But she, poor as she is, has given everything she has." So let's talk about the widow woman. Let's talk about her. First of all, the church was supposed to be taking care of the widows and the orphans to begin with. She didn't even have to give anything. She was supposed to be getting out of that box. Those boxes, those 13 boxes were not the tithes. The Jewish people all paid their tithes. They paid tithes on everything, on their goats, on their cows, on their bread, on their butter, everything. They took all that into the priest. But these boxes were full of money that were donations for the upkeep of the building and for the widows, to help them. And so that's what this was for. So this widow lady didn't even have to really put in anything to start with, but she did. Okay, let's talk about her. Now we're going to, if she, and this is not in the Bible. This is, this is Betty M's here. If she was a widow woman, more than likely she was probably old. She probably was alone. There was no one with her. The Bible doesn't speak of anybody being with her. So I feel like she was alone, or she might have had help getting into the temple. Possibly sick, possibly arthritis in a cane. And let me just tell y'all something. It doesn't matter how old you are. You don't want to have a cane. Amen. It don't matter how old you are. It's embarrassing to walk with a cane. It's embarrassing when people say, "What's wrong with you?" You have to get over that. You have to lose some of that pride. But that widow woman, she didn't want. She was not well, I'm sure, or she wouldn't have been classified as a poor widow woman. I bet her clothes didn't look too good. What do you think? if she was a poor widow woman, you probably could tell by looking at her that she was a poor widow woman. So maybe she was sick. We know she was poor. Maybe she was crippled. We don't know. But there's one thing I know. Now here goes Betty Ann and her. Doug will say, yeah, I knew you'd get to this, Mama. Guess where she was? At home, crying in her soup because she was old? No, ma'am. She was in the temple. She went to church. Woo! Yes, she went to church. And she went to church with an offering. So what a woman of faith she must have been. What a woman of faith. This was all she had. And she was going to give it in the offering. And I'm sure the way she looked, she didn't want anybody to see her. I'm sure the way she looked, she was probably trying to not be noticed. You know, I would be. She's probably just trying to be quietly slip in and put that money in. And it didn't dangle much. But guess who saw her? Guess who was in the temple that day? The King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. And when he saw her, it wasn't about the amount of money she gave. It was about her heart. And it was about what she was trying to do. And he immediately wanted those disciples to get a hold of that same spirit that lady had, because that's what he wanted to build his church on. That's what he wanted to build his church on, generosity. That's what church is about, generosity. And let me tell you something else about this old lady. Just because you're old don't mean you're stupid. Let's repeat that. We may not be up on some of the things you guys are up on, but we've done some living. We made some mistakes. We know right. We know we've got it. You think that old woman didn't know that church, that temple, there was corruption in that temple? Why, of course she knew it. Old women know it. They hear a lot of stuff. Let me tell you that. Now, don't with Connie. You're not as old as me, but we hear stuff. She knew there was corruption. She knew it wasn't perfect. But she gave anyway. Well, I'm not giving my money to that church. I can tell you that right now. I'm not going to do it because, you know, that lady that sings in the choir, I don't know about her. I've heard some stories about her, and I'm just not going to promote that. God just won't let me promote that. Come on, people. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Have you ever heard it before? I have. Now, let me say this. We want to give. We want to give where we feel like that God is using our money. Of course, we don't want to throw it away. We want to give to some. But it's not our place. It is not our place. After we give, it's God's money. Amen. We're not responsible for what someone else does. I'm not responsible for what someone else says. All I'm responsible for is me, and that's a really big job. Really big job. Any of you that know me well, Jay. But I am so in love with this widow woman this morning. I just think about what generosity she had. What generosity. Wouldn't you love to leave this world and people say, what a generous lady she was. What a generous man she was. You know, the beginning of the new year would be a good time for us just to get radical, wouldn't it? Amen. Get radical with your giving. Get radical. I looked up, and I'm going to hush. I looked up some statistics. So everybody buckle up, children. Buckle up. It's rough. I'm preaching to the choir, I know. All of y'all are here. 85% of the people in the United States give less than 2% to help others. Now, I want to ask you something. Have any of you ever got a 2% raise? I have. It stunk, didn't it? 2%? I'd think, are you kidding me? Can't you beat 2%? 2% is almost 0%, isn't it? But I've gotten those raises before when times were bad on the company, you know. But 85% of the people, and we're supposed to be a country that give less than 2% to help other people. That statistic is terrible, isn't it? We need to change that. 10 to 25% of Christians that go regularly to church that they attend are givers. Oh my goodness. That means 75% of regular church attenders don't give. And let me just say this, and this is boy, this might be my last trip. That's okay, I've said a lot in my time. You know, we're the only club, the only organization, the only place I know that you don't pay dues, that you don't have to give a little money just to get in the door. Cub Scouts, I had to give, I had 2 Cub Scouts when $5 was a lot, wasn't it, Douglas? When, you know, we do it for, do what, honey? Well, it was your brother that said whip you. Surely I didn't whip you on the way home. The words. Let me tell you what his brother said. That's what I lived with. So his brother, when we found, I told him, I said, yeah, yes. He was supposed to buy, he was supposed to buy his book for Cub Scouts that night. And I said, Doug, just use that $5 that I gave you this morning. He said, you're not going to like this, but I don't have that $5. And Bob's famous words, Greg, I should write a book. He said, stop the car and whip him now, Mom. Listen, he knows we're poor. He knows it. So anyway, that's been my life, children. Anyway, let's do like the widow. Let's give.
Betty Ann, that was good. Words to take to heart. I would be a little careful about starting the family feuds, though, because you do know who's on stage last. Well, let's take a short break. Be reminded that there are offering holders by the door, so your generosity can be put to work today. There is a prayer box on the table by the women's restroom if you have a special prayer need or even just a routine prayer need. Put it in that box. Make a note, put it in the box. It'll be prayed over. Let's take a break. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you.